Hello again. I spoke yesterday about the curious fact that, as far as Jeffrey Epstein's malign influence extends to this country, it appears to be inextricably entwined with both homosexuality and Jews. I want today to look a little closer at one of these twin themes, namely the affinity which Epstein had for other Jews, some of them, to say the very least of it, very rather surprising individuals to find in bed with him, metaphorically speaking, that is. That his lawyers and accountant were Jewish is not perhaps surprising. Alan Dershowitz is a top lawyer connected with any number of famous clients such as O.J. Simpson, and he would be a natural choice for a man charged with soliciting minors for immoral purposes, someone who could easily afford his extraordinarily high fees. In the same way, Richard Kahn, his accountant, that's Kahn spelt Kaahan, by the way, not Khan, as would be more likely in Britain these days. He is not a particularly surprising choice for accountant. I am incidentally well aware that I'm laying myself open to a charge of covert anti-Semitism by talking openly in this fashion, but that is a hazard I'm willing to take. I'm speaking here about a topic which is being discussed privately all over the place, so I don't see why I shouldn't bring the topic out into the open, as it were. The fact is that Jeffrey Epstein's best friend, confidant, and crisis manager, the man to whom he turned constantly for reassurance and practical advice, was none other than Noam Chomsky. Now, the fact of the matter is, I can imagine no possible other point of contact or similarity between these two men, except the fact that both were Ashkenazi Jews whose grandparents came to the United States from Russia. On the one hand is perhaps the leading intellectual of the liberal left in America for over half a century, breathtakingly intelligent and accomplished man whose ideas still shape several scientific fields such as linguistics. Set against this is a sleazy opportunist, wicked financier and child molester with a finger in so many unsavoury pies it would be hard to know where to begin. Jeffrey Epstein has been described as many things, but intellectual has not been one of them. What meeting of minds could there possibly have been between these two men, who became so close that Chomsky was the first person Epstein consulted when he was in difficulty, is hard to imagine. It was a relationship which continued until Epstein's death and was not apparently affected by his imprisonment. Chomsky had a stroke 3 years ago which left him unable to speak, so it's been left to his wife to explain what it was all about. She has been compelled to offer some explanation because of the huge number of awkward email exchanges and photographs which have emerged in the last few days. They both flew in Epstein's private jet, known as the Lolita Express. Also, they stayed at a couple of his properties. It seems he might have given them money as well. How does Chomsky's wife account for all this? She says that she and her husband were trusting, gullible, and naive. Now, this is a startling revelation indeed, because if there is one thing which those of us who have long been admirers of Noam Chomsky are aware of, is that he was the precise opposite of trusting, gullible, and naive. Indeed, I think it fair to say that a key part of his appeal to logical, progressive people from the 1960s onwards is that he never showed the least indication of gullibility and was always ready to turn his laser-like intellect on any problem, scientific or moral, and strip away the cant, the shoddy arguments, and the false reasoning to reveal what was really going on. and what motivated people doing what he felt were unethical and morally wrong things. We saw this, of course, with his principled opposition to the American war in Vietnam. His collusion with Jeffrey Epstein is therefore unlikely to have been caused by his gullibility and more likely to have been a conscious and witting decision taken on what he felt were logical grounds. What those grounds might have been, though, is quite obscure. The only thing which those two men had in common, as far as can be seen, is that they were both Jews. Was this sufficient form of bond between them, a bond which was not broken even when it was clear what kind of man Epstein was? I mean, it's true that, say, Scotsmen tend to feel an affinity for each other when they meet in a country outside their own, and Muslims often prefer the company of other Muslims to that of unbelievers. But is it really possible that simply being Jewish was enough to cause a leading intellectual of the age to become so very pally with a dreadful rogue like Epstein? Or am I missing something here?